Right, part two. Um, it's a bit later in the day, so we're under artificial lighting if I look different. Anyway, so following on from the previous video, um, yeah, the after effects of being essentially overdosed on carbimazole was severe anxiety. Like, I had really bad health anxiety. Um, over time, my Graves had kicked in and my levels started coming back up naturally on their own. I didn't have to take any like thyroxine or anything. So yeah, they started coming up, and I told my GP. I said I don't feel like I'm being looked after properly. I'm not being looked after by the BRI. You know, we're in March, and the closest appointment that could give me was June. Like, it's just not good enough. So I asked to be re-referred to Airedale. They re-referred me to Airedale, and I got an endo endo consultant there, and she were lovely. She were wonderful. So in the meantime, I had been asked to have my bloods done again, um, and they showed that. What did they show? My T3 and T4 had gone up, and my TSH had gone down. So your T3 and T4 are the thyroid hormones in your blood. Um, so they'd gone up again, and they asked me to start on a low dose of carbimazole. So I think it was 5 milligrams. So I started taking 5 milligrams a day of the carbimazole, which is a lot lower than what I were on. And within 4 days, I was ill again. I was so ill. I just suddenly this weakness came over me. I could barely stand. I could barely breathe. My heart was just, it felt like it were going to stop beating. I had severe tremors all over my body, like convulsing. I was dry retching. I was barely even lucid. My friend was here, my wife, well, my partner was here, Joni. I call her my wife, even though she's not. Um, she was here, and they were like, "Are you having a? I think you're having a panic attack." Um, yeah, they thought I was having a panic attack at first until my body started doing what it was doing and the retching and everything else that came with it. So they phoned an ambulance, and I ended up in hospital, and it was an adverse reaction to the carbimazole. So I don't know if because from it being previous in the system, not agreeing with me, that I just can't tolerate it anymore. The top and bottom of it is I can't tolerate it anymore. So I went back to the endo again, who offered to put me on something called PTU, which is propylthiouracil, I think it's pronounced. Anyway, I've looked up the PTU, and it's got a black box label. Like, people have died of liver failure taking it. They've had to have liver transplants. Like, they have to be really closely monitored. And I thought, I can't be on this for the next 18 months. Like, the side effects are worse than the affliction. Like, I can't. So this is where I decided to start doing my own research, and I found Dr. Eric Ozansky, and he has actually written a book. He's on YouTube. I found him. There's a Facebook group called Hyperthyroidism Graves and Natural Remedies. So I thought, right, I need to help myself. Now, bearing in mind, I had a bit of a shitty lifestyle. I like to have a drink. I like to eat nice food. I wasn't treating my body the best. So, to me, you have to pick a hard in life. So, sorting my diet and lifestyle out was hard. Living like that was hard. I chose my hard. So, I started doing my research, and the research says that Graves' disease is an autoimmune disease. An autoimmune disease is usually kicked off by your diet. So, the two big things for Graves is gluten and dairy. So, I thought, right, I'd already cut down sugar. I've not touched any alcohol. I Didn't feel like I could cut both out at the same time, so I started with the gluten. Cut the gluten out of my diet, and doing more research and more research, I looked at taking selenium via Brazil nuts. That helps to level out your TSH. It also stops the Graves' disease from attacking your eyes, which I didn't want that, so I started taking that. There's an amino acid called L-carnitine, which helps with the energy exchange, the mitochondria, that's called. So I started taking that. It also alleviates a lot of Graves' disease symptoms for a lot of people. There are studies, if you go out and look. I am a doctor, I've already said this. I've gone and researched the field studies for myself. I have read loads to back these claims. I looked at lemon balm. Lemon balm is really good, and bugleweed. So I tried the lemon balm. Didn't really agree with me. Didn't like the way it made me feel. So I stopped taking that and I started taking the bugleweed. So I take the tincture every night. You're supposed to take 10 to 15 drops of a night. I think I was detoxing a little bit too fast, especially after stopping the gluten. So it made me feel a bit fluey with the detox. So I reduced that down to about 5 drops a night. I did this for, I'd say, about a month and a half, 6 weeks. Cleaned up my diet. I'd do a castor oil compress on my liver, continued the bugleweed, continued the supplements. I didn't take the PTU because I was scared to death of the side effects after the incident with the carbimazole. Like, the health anxiety it gave me was crazy. So yeah, I did that, and I went for my blood redoing after about 2 months, and she told me that my T3 was back in range and my T4 was back in range, and my TSH was still suppressed. Now, if your T3 and T4 come back in range, your TSH is supposed to follow. So she said, have you been taking the medication? I said, no. She was like, what do you mean? So I told her what I'd been doing. I told her I didn't take it. I told her the changes that I'd made and the natural route. So, well, her tone, it did change. She was like, oh, like, she didn't sound too impressed whatsoever. Meanwhile, I'm doing a mini dance in my head. I'm like, yay, like, things are getting better. Like, I feel better. I look better. I've lost 2 stone nearly. Like, the puffiness has gone down. My energy levels have gone up. And I think the massive contributing factor was cutting out the gluten. So I have seen videos that say that gluten mimics thyroid hormone. So if your pituitary gland thinks that you've got too much thyroid hormone, it will then suppress the TSH, causing the overactive thyroid. I've also seen videos saying that this is not the case. Now, I don't care whether it's the case or not. All I know is it's made my life so much easier. Now, don't get me wrong, coming off gluten is hard. Do you know it has the same response? It hits the same receptors in your brain as opioid. Let me tell you, so the first week wasn't too bad. A few weeks in, a couple of weeks in, it was hard. Like, I would have given my left tit for some gluten. Like, pasta, bread, biscuits, cake, anything. I just wanted to stick my face in it and motorboat. Like, I wanted it bad. But I didn't. I pushed through and pushed through, and that craving has subsided. Gluten-free substitutes, not too great. But eating whole foods, meat, tatties, veg, fish, like salad, fruit, all them good things has really, really helped my health. I'm running out of this time on this video. I will make a part 3, but it won't be today. So just keep looking, because I will upload it over the next few days. Okay?